Morning, everybody. This is Matt Webster again. Back today with another video in my Christian Journey series. Today, I actually wanted to go over something that I haven't gone over before, which is the importance of dreams, puzzles, and like visions and stuff like that. Now, I want to preface this before starting this video. With dreams and visions, people often don't go over their own dreams and visions. I've kind of noticed some people will mention them in like other Christian videos, but ones that particularly pertain to them themselves, I've noticed people don't really talk about, and I think this is kind of an important topic, simply because a lot of times when you're expressing these dreams and videos outwardly to like what's going on in your own life, people are going to think you're crazy. In fact, a lot of people, especially friends who aren't with God or in God at the moment, um, they're going to look at you like you're insane. And that's okay. Quite frankly, to be honest, it's better to have everyone think you're insane while you're in the process and let it just work itself out. For the reason being that you will be vindicated when things do happen that they can't explain, which is the miraculous work of God at hand. You can't always explain why things happen the way they happen, and God, I've found, likes to keep it that way. It's not as a punishment towards you, because like we all have ideas of how things are going to work out and how things might look. From my own experience, they've been close but not exact, and some things have been, oh, well, that was a little different than what I imagined, kind of as an attitude. Now, I want to kind of get into God speaks to me sometimes through dreams and puzzles. And by puzzles, I mean like how things all fit together, the puzzles, the dreams, the visions, the words that he gives, even the prayers, and like how he answers prayers uniquely. It all kind of comes together, and like especially in my mind because I'm highly analytical, very good at math and stuff like that. So it comes down to God knows that I'm super complex and knows that I wouldn't be satisfied with anything simple. If I get a simple answer, I'd get bored and just be like, okay, well, that was eh. For me, it's more like he wants to throw me curveballs constantly, where it's like, man, I thought this was how this fit, and it's not really how it fits. And then, like, later on, when he knows I'm ready, the stuff will come back up and I can see how it all fits together. So, today I want to go over some dreams that I've had over the course of my lifetime. The first dream that I'm going to talk about is actually a dream that happened during high school. There's three dreams in particular that are all kind of linked together over the course of time with some other things that have popped up. Um, so in this first dream, I'm fighting a monster. Most people have monsters in their lives. You can also say that it's kind of a man or a demon because it's just a really, really big dude. So if you've ever read the Bible, think like Goliath, maybe with some teeth and fangs. Uh, in this dream, I'm also wearing armor, and I'm getting hit relentlessly by this demon, and the demon is just enjoying every second of it. And I try to swing back, and nothing happens, and it's just I'm getting barraged. Eventually, I get hit so hard that I'm sent flying upward into the air. After a little while going up, the demon had also jumped up into the air and took a swing and smashed me back down. This also maybe just a preference why I might like anime, because this fight's going to seem really unrealistic in real world, which is something to note that sometimes when you're in spiritual battles and spiritual warfare and dreams, the dreams aren't going to be completely realistic to what our understanding of how things work. But that's another note. So then the monster jumping into the air gets to a point where he's met me or he's above me in the air, and he takes another swing and sends me back flying like a meteor to the ground. I actually hit the ground hard enough in this dream that it leaves an impact in a crater. and then I'm knocked unconscious. But while I'm unconscious, I go into a dream inside of a dream where I'm talking to God. And at first I don't realize it's God, because in my dreams God appears to me talking through me, and it actually makes a lot of sense, and this isn't out of arrogance or pride, just so people understand this. We all have a different idea of what God is like in our minds and how he looks. Of course, and there's Jesus to take into account for that too. But there's a phrase that's really, really important, especially in the Bible verse very early on in the Bible, where he's talking about when he creates Adam. They say that God created us in his image. Well, in that perspective, I think my mind has correlated that God will look somewhat like myself, and for my brother, he'll look like my brother. For my mom, he'll look like my mom. For my pastor, he'll look like my pastor, is how I've kind of established it in my mind. Now, whether or not this is true for everybody, because everyone's different, it's up to everyone else for how your own interpretation. But this is kind of how God appears to me. Now, obviously, I know God's going to look a lot different than that when we actually meet him, but for the point of this dream, just follow along with that. Now, in the dream, God's telling me that I need to get back up, that I need to fight. And what happens is I do get back up. The monster's boasting, laughing, and bragging to everyone about how pathetic I was, how weak I was. Which, by the way, is Satan, if anyone hasn't figured that out by now. So I start getting back up, and I start walking towards him out of this crater. The armor that I was wearing is all falling off, it's cracking. Which, by the way, is also a spiritual representation that I needed to let my guard down and my defenses down so that God could come in and do his work, because it's something I'm very, very bad about. I have a hard time letting my defenses down, and part of that is that I've let my defenses down around a lot of people and got burnt really bad throughout my life, particularly family members. There's a whole long story with that, but as soon as the monster realizes that I'm no longer down, he turns back to me, he looks and laughs, says that he'll finish me. Eventually I get close enough to where he can take a swing at me. I drop down just enough to actually pull back and take a complete swing at him. And then, like, when I pull my arm back and give everything I've got into one swing, I'm actually able to swing at him and knock him out. So this to me was an indication that this was going to be me coming back to God at some point in my life. It took me a minute to kind of understand that. It took years for me to honestly process that, because, like, I did eventually come back to God, and it was just because I got tired of living the life that I was living and being the person that I was, and I wasn't happy with who I was. And that's a big indication of something in your life. If you're not happy with where you're at and who you think you are, and you're tired of performing for other people, it's a good indication that God's trying to work something out in you. Now, the next dream, I'm in a field with grain watching my own funeral. Friends and family are there, crying, and it's really hard to watch it because you can just feel the sadness in this dream. Then there's a woman holding a child, which I thought was kind of weird, but she's also kind of like blacked out. My brother is in this dream. He walks over to this woman and tells her if she needs anything, because her family, that they would help this woman and child, which I'm guessing based on the language that's used by my brother that the woman and child are my wife and child. That would be my guess to that. Which, by the way, this dream also is a dream of representation of spiritual death, leading to physical death, because I was void of God. Which, by those dreams, both have happened when I wasn't back in church and back talking to God. So then this dream was on repeat for a long time, but it's happened multiple times throughout the course of my life until more recently, about a little over a year ago. I have this dream again, um, but before this dream happens, what happens is that I'm in this water, drowning, and I'm just sinking down, and then I hear God's voice say, "Take the hand," because his hand reaches through the water. So I grab the hand and I'm slowly pulled from the water. I see my friends, Avery, Carlo, Michael, Gabe, Michaela, and Trace. In that order, in that exact order, one's pulled above the water and to my feet. I'm back in the field of grain from the previous dream. I start walking through the field trying to find my funeral because I'm very confused at this point. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm back in this place. Well, where's my funeral at? I'm then approached by an older version of myself. Again, God talking through me. I ask him where the funeral is, and he says there isn't one. I ask why, what changed. He tells me, you made the hard choice. You took the hand and accepted help. Ah, part of that for me is that I'm also not good at accepting help, and I, part of that is like when I came back to like a church community and coming back to God, even sometimes with God, like God will be giving me an out, and in some ways I just choose not to take it. In honesty, not perfect, still learning. Uh, I'm also not good at accepting help from others. Like somebody can put out a hand, and I get prideful to think I can do it on my own, and I'm having to learn how to humble myself to accepting help. Um, Now, to go back to the dream, after he tells me I made the hard choice and I took the hand and accepted help, I ask him, what now? He said, keep going and don't let those friends you saw go. Cherish them, keep them safe. This will lead into another dream. So there's another dream that comes up later um, that's also linked to this. I kind of just mostly want to go over to what else this dream meant and how these dreams all connect. Um, so with the first dream, like I said, I was coming back to God. But the second dream was my eventual death from being prideful um, and leaving behind everything that actually meant something to me. And that was something that God wanted to point out, is the fact that things mean something to you, you continue to fight for them. The final dream was Jesus pulling me from the water. So the hand actually coming through, even though it was connected to my friends, was actually the hand of Jesus coming in to pull me out. Which also showed me that my initial belief that love and the love I was feeling for my friends would eventually bring me back to him. Also, I would see that each of them was individually placed on my path, being my friends, to reawakening in my Christianity. God also gave me a message using their names, which something else that God likes to do is, for whatever reason, names, when they pop up in a certain sequence or like in a specific order and like a certain format, they tend to make messages and names like for the pattern of my life and how things are going to go. So starting with this is the order that they popped up in the names and their translation. And just to make sure everyone understands this, my name is also on this list, but even though I would be at the bottom being pulled up, I end up at the end of the line because of the fact that I was pulled that way ahead of them and out of the water, which is something I can get into later. But the message was, a father of many, a warrior who is like God, who finds strength and resembles God, brave and fierce, is a gift of God. And I'll read it again. A father of many, a warrior who is like God, who finds strength and resembles God, brave and fierce, is a gift of God. So, first part is something about becoming a father, like pastor, maybe my own children. I'll have many of them. I have a warrior's desire where I want to protect and honor people, fight for what I value, which is love, kindness, friendship. Um, I find strength. My strength is the people I surround myself with, the people I care about, which translates back to being love again. Now, the resembling God, brave and fierce, I think that has to do with the message from before about God said that I had a heart like His, and in that way, like I resemble God's heart more than anything, because I value love above everything else. And a gift of God, I've been given many gifts, but of the greatest of them, it's my compassion and love for other people, um, to where I don't want to stop fighting, and I want to keep hoping that everyone I love can be saved. Now, the thing is there are many interpretations of how this dream can be interpreted. This is my own interpretation. I'm sure that there could be multiple interpretations of what other people see and how things might link together. I think that mostly it was a journey of me coming back to Christ and what was going to lead there, and the fact that God had never really truly left me, because the one thing that I have held on to for a very long time is the fact that I truly do believe that love is the answer that completely null and voids everything else. And there's a character that I'm going to get into that's on my list that's actually the next character. It's something that people don't really often consider, and that's that they say that men with emotions are weak, and I disagree. I think that men that can express their emotions freely and still be foundationally sound are the strongest men on this planet, because men do break. We don't go on forever, and even myself, I don't show it very often, but there are times when I cry in silence to myself, by myself. Um, it's just part of who people are, and like I think honestly, admitting that I do have a level of emotions that most people probably wouldn't quite understand is difficult to express in some ways. Um, I also wanted to give one final note on this video, and that's in my own life, numbers have meant something. Like I said, I was really good at math. Never really understood why, but God also knew that numbers, He wanted me to know that numbers were important. So, number 7 has been my number for a long time, and part of that is completion, and that's that I do find completion in God. Um, there's also, ironically enough, 7 people in this dream. Um, and it just so happens that when you pull me out of the water, if you go from one person to the end and then myself at the end, that's number 7. Which, again, comes back to the whole completion in God. God's work is perfect to completion. Anyways, I hope that this message finds people well and that this helps somebody, because understanding how dreams work with God, and like how God speaks through dreams, and like how even some people might be receiving puzzles and things that they need to link together. Some of you might be just as complex, if not more complex, than myself. And I found that, especially a lot of Christian men, we're all very complex, and in fact, we tend to be more complex when we're with God than without Him. Anyways, look to seeing you guys next time.